How does a dog keep its cool?
How can you make shoes out of paper?
How can you have a thunderstorm indoors for willy nubbies?
How? How?
How can you make matchless magic?
First how of a new series, Fred, and you've stumped me already. That's impossible, isn't it?
No, this is a magic trick, isn't it? You
It
never
is.
get them right, Freddie.
Right. How can you move a box of matches around without other people knowing where they are? Let me show you what I mean. An empty box,
Yes.
a box of matches,
Yeah.
an empty box. How can I move that one around without you knowing?
No, we could
can't.
follow that.
You
no
can follow it?
trouble.
Are you sure?
Yes.
OK, move it to there,
Yeah.
that to there, that to there, and that one to there.
Yeah.
Now, where's the one with the matches?
It's on this end
On that
over
end,
here.
yeah.
This one here?
Yeah, easy.
No, sorry. Should we try again? It's that one there. OK. Move it to there, that to there, that to there, and that to there. Where is it now?
On
It's
Carol's
on-
side
yeah, it's
again.
on
This one here?
end, Yes.
No, that's completely empty. It's that one there.
Open it.
Well, do I have to?
Yes.
No
Ah,
matches!
no matches.
No, because that's how.
Oh.
A fourth box up the sleeve, so when you move the box that's allegedly got matches in, you shake. And the others, which are also empty, you do with the other hand. That's how.
How can seeing be misbelieving?
Now, seeing is believing.
So the saying goes. But can you always believe what you see? Here are some
Yeah.
tests for you. 3 Russian dolls. Which one is the smallest of the 3?
The one nearest to you.
This one here?
Yeah.
OK, here is a measuring device. That's exactly the same as that doll. What about this one?
Well, that's slightly bigger.
You think so? In fact, it's exactly the same. And this one over here?
Well, that is huge.
Huge, you say? It's exactly the same.
How come?
How come? Because the converging lines deceive your eyes. You believe that that is further away and therefore it's bigger, but you are in fact misbelieving.
Wow.
How about this? This is much, much easier. Which one of these shapes is the square?
Oh, I believe it's the one on the left.
This one here?
Yep.
And the square has?
4 equal sides.
OK. That's the exact measurement of that one.
Yep.
And this will be?
Slightly shorter.
It's slightly shorter. It should be the same if it's a square.
I don't believe
Over
it.
here, this, in fact, is the square with sides of equal length. Now, that's because your eyes exaggerate vertical lines, so you believe that that is the square. You are, in fact, again, misbelieving. And that's why a tree, if it's standing, looks longer than if it's been chopped down. Now, this one, 2 faces. Which way is this one looking?
I believe he's looking to the right.
And this one?
He's going to the left.
OK, I'm not going to touch the eyes. Now which way is it looking?
I believe he's looking to the left now.
Not touching the eyes again.
He's looking to the right.
He's looking to the right. So merely by changing the nose and the mouth, not touching the eyes, you think that the eyes have changed direction. You are, in fact, again, misbelieving. Because if you look at it properly, the
the same.
eyes are exactly the
I
same.
believe it.
And so you have been deceived, proving that seeing can be misbelieving.
And if you want to know more about optical illusions or any of the other hows on today's programme, we have prepared a quick data blast to give you all the information you require. And here it is.
Well, that's very useful, Fred. It went a little bit quick, mate.
Well, you are supposed to record it. It will appear at the end of each programme, and all you do is use the pause or still button on your video recorder to replay each page of text. They're all there numbered, so you can't go wrong. We've also got an email address for you to contact to get all the information you want. Another how.
How does a dog keep its cool? Well, I want you to meet a personal friend of mine, a dog called Rudy, who's just a little bit warm now, but not too hot. Humans, when they get a little hot, have 2 options. Either you take your clothes off or you sweat. And I sweat like a pig when I get hot. I can tell you, I can lose about as much sweat as that in just half an hour of sweating. And this is how I actually keep cool. What happens is your sweat glands coat your body with sweat, and then that sweat begins to evaporate. And as it evaporates, it needs heat. Where does it get the heat from? From your body, and it actually cools you down. I can demonstrate. If I make my finger wet, that finger is already starting to feel a little cooler than my dry finger over here. And if I blow over this finger, that speeds the process up. That finger feels quite cool now. But dogs can't do this. Why? Because they don't have sweat glands. Now, I'm going to leave Rudy with you, Fred, for a minute.
Yeah, I love it.
Because I want you to
Come on,
meet
Rude.
Gwen. She's a Welsh Springer Spaniel, and she's in a slightly hot situation at the moment. So how does she keep her cool? Come up here, Gwen. Can you come and sit up here with me? Yes, come and sit up there. There we go. Now, Gwen here, not too hot, I hope, at the moment, but if she were to get hot, you'd notice that her tongue would be hanging out. Now, this is how dogs keep cool, because their tongues are nice and wet, and as long as they're wet, they can evaporate the heat away from the dog's body. And as they pant, they're trying to increase the amount of air passing over the tongue, and therefore lose more heat and stay cool. So that's how a doggy keeps cool. And another thing about doggies, you should never, ever leave a dog in a car unattended. Isn't that right, Gwen?
How do 4/4 make a cake? A classic French cake recipe called quatre quarts, which is French for 4/4, because it requires only 4 ingredients and they all weigh exactly the same. If you want a cake of that size, you will need 4 eggs. And when you put them on the scales, you mark the point at which they weigh. Get your 4 eggs and crack them in the bowl.
1, 2.
See the dexterity?
This is fantastic.
Pretty impressive, isn't it?
3. Amazing.
Now you need some butter, and it must weigh exactly the same as your 4 eggs. What you're going to do now is melt the butter.
Melt it.
Melt it. While that is nicely melting, we now need some caster sugar, and the caster sugar must weigh exactly the same as the eggs and the butter. And put that in with the eggs. We'll now mix those together gently. And when they are nice and smooth, we now take our flour, and again, that must weigh exactly the same as the other 3 ingredients. By now, our butter will be melted, and you put that in with the eggs and the caster sugar. OK so far?
Yeah.
Mix them up gently.
Looks more like pancake mix to that.
It's
Very runny.
smelling delicious.
Is it?
Now add the flour and a wooden spoon, and this must all be mixed in, and this takes a little time. Then you tip it all into the baking tray. And if you're not using a Teflon tray, make sure it is greased. Now the exciting part, to the cooker. Gas mark 4, 175 degrees, and after 1¼ hours, out will come your perfectly cooked cake. And there it is.
Oh.
Quatre quarts, 4/4, a cake of 4 ingredients, all weighing exactly the same. That's how.
Lovely. How can you make shoes out of paper?
Out of paper?
Yeah, they make shoes out of leather.
No, boys. The shoes I've been wearing all day in the studio are made completely out of paper. And I'd like to introduce you to another pair of shoes worn by the paper shoe expert maker, Chris Knowles. You've written books on the subject, haven't you, Chris? Now, how do I make these? First of all, what are they made from?
Well, all you need is a cardboard box from your local supermarket, some wrapping paper, and the paper to cover the shoe. That's all you need.
Sounds great so far. What about making a simple pair of sandals? Let's start with the easy bit.
Well, the first thing you'd have to do is to make a template of your foot. And you must make sure that the corrugations run across the foot.
That way.
That's right. So that
Okay,
it
and then
bends
just draw
correctly.
around it.
That's
And
right.
try not to get the felt tip all over your foot. Okay, and that becomes a template.
That's right.
Right.
And
What
from
next?
those, you'd actually make 3 corrugated soles for each of the shoes you want to make. So that's 6 corrugated soles.
What about the bit on top?
Well, you would cut the packaging paper and then cover it with the paper that you want your shoe to look like. And then you would actually fold the corners over to give it additional strength. and then quite simply you lay that around like that and glue it on, and then having glued these three together, you glue it like that, and there's your shoe.
Now, is this a little bit slippy at the bottom?
Well, to counteract that, we have that.
What's that?
Well, it's Carbion paper. It's the paper that you find to package wine bottles.
OK, well, that sounds wonderful. What about if you want to do something more complicated?
Well, I think you would look at the shoes you've got at home, and from the pieces that you see on the shoes, you'd make a pair like this.
Fruity boots.
Yes, indeed.
You've got a great deal of imagination, and particularly so with these. I love these platforms.
Well, the Elton John shoe, of course.
With wings.
Yes.
Fly me. What about
And,
these? These look like they're made out of cloth.
Well, it's a banana fibre, actually.
Ah.
And
I'm afraid these are my favourites, the Dinky
How could
Little
you
Child
resist?
shoe. Aren't they beautiful?
it's all recyclable. It's all bits of paper and boxes that you can find anywhere.
Marvellous. Thank you very much indeed, Chris Knowles. And that is how you can make shoes completely out of paper.
How do you look up someone's name in the phone book in Iceland? Well, Iceland's easy enough to find. There it is, a volcanic place on the edge of the Arctic Circle. But finding people's names in the phone book is a bit different in Iceland, and I'll explain why. In this country, you have a last name. Let's take the example of a family we know well, Fred's family, OK? This is Fred's family tree, or if you like, the Dinage lineage.
Lineage.
OK, the Dinage lineage, then. Right, Fred, there you are, Fred Dinage, and your wife, Deirdre, and your two kids, Edgar and Frida, right? Now, your father, am I right, was called Dennis?
Yes.
Duncan was his father.
Yes.
Duncan's father was Donald.
Yeah.
And Donald's father was Dustman.
Good old Dusty.
All Dinages. Right. Now, in Iceland, things would be slightly different. You don't have a last name, so to speak of, in Iceland. You get your last name from your father's first name. So Fred, your dad was called Dennis.
Yeah.
That means that you, if you were Icelandic, would actually be called Fred Dennisson. Dennis's son, literally. Now then, that means that Dennis, your father, whose father was Duncan, would be
Dennis
called...
Duncanson.
Dennis Duncanson. And Duncan would be...
Duncan Donaldson.
Duncan Donaldson. And Donald's your father...
Donald Dustmanson.
You're ahead of me. Donald Dustmanson.
I've cracked it.
Ah, OK, let's try the children,
Yeah.
right? You've got Edgar and Frida. Now, Edgar...
Edgar Fredson.
Quite right.
Yes.
And Frida...
Frida Fredson.
Wrong, Fred. She is Frida, Fred's daughter, or as they say in Iceland, Fred's dottir. Now also, women in Iceland, when they get married, don't take their husband's last name, they stay with their father's first name. So Deirdre would be Deirdre, David's daughter, or David's dottir. So the first name is far more important than the last name if you live in Iceland. And this is how you look people up in the phone book.
How about Bjork?
Bjork.
We like Bjork.
OK, Bjork is, well, her last name is Gudmundsdottir. Her dad was called Goodman.
Look her up.
Well, I don't look under Goodman, I look under Bjork first.
Yeah.
Bjork, and find Gudmundsdottir. There we are.
What's
yeah.
the number?
I'm sorry, Fred. She's ex-directory. So that's how you look up someone's number in the phone book in Iceland, by the first name, not the last.
How can you have a thunderstorm indoors? In a theatre, how can you have wonderful storm effects?
They use sound effects records, don't they?
These days they use sound effects records, and also if you want to, you could go out and record your own sound effects on a tape recorder. But how did they get on 100 years ago before all these wonderful inventions?
It was a dark and stormy night, and the sound effects man struggled on through the howling wind. The howling wind is a wind machine which drags a canvas strip over a resonant drum. With the wind came the rain, beating against the window. A handful of dried peas being rolled around inside a tight drumskin. Sudden, vivid flashes of light lit up a hideous figure. It was Gareth operating the lightning shutters. Suddenly, the earth shook. To the sound of thunder, Carol Vorderman shaking the life out of a hunk of galvanized steel. And that is how, 100 years ago, you could have a thunderstorm in a theatre. Get those recorders going for Data Blast now, because now it's... How? Now! To be or not to be?
What was your question?
I don't know.
Fred! What? I've got terrible wind!
Not again.